Hello, my name is Kasyan. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the process of creating a portrait that was done entirely from life. This portrait is part of the ongoing series of portraits that I've been doing for over 2 months now. And after having produced over 50 portraits, I would like to share in this video some of my observations and some of the things that I've learned along. My friend Laurence has set for me for a total of 4 hours, and I'm going to walk you through step by step of accomplishing this portrait. The surface that I'm using is a primed 9x12 Bristol paper. It's a heavier paper, 270 grams, that I've covered with a gray ground. While the total amount of time required to complete this portrait was 4 hours, those 4 hours were actually split in segments of 25 minutes at a time. So on a total of 4 hours, I get about 6 segments of those 25-minute sessions plus the breaks. Rather than looking at the total of 4 hours as one long painting process, I try to divide my sessions into different chapters, so 25 minutes per chapter. With each of these chapters, I have a specific goal in mind. And one of the most important parts of the painting, in my opinion, is actually the initial 25 minutes dedicated to painting. This is where I will establish my composition, my basic drawing where I divide my lights with shadows, I establish my basic proportions, and I'll distribute the entirety of values. I'll make sure to establish my darkest darks and my lightest lights at the very beginning of the painting. One of the things that I was able to observe is that while painting from life, and this applies specifically to painting from life and not from photos, is that your model's expressions will vary throughout the entire process. And in a way, you have a luxury of choosing what expression you want to focus on. Therefore, to get the liveliest facial expression and the liveliest expression in the eyes of the models, I try to focus on developing the area around the eyes and the eyebrows at the beginning of each 25-minute segment. Towards the ends, models tend to get more tired, and sometimes they'll even frown without realizing it. And so, rather than trying to always copy and correct the expressions, I'll dedicate specific amount of time at the beginning of each 25-minute segment to specifically focus on the lively expression of my sitter. So in a way, each 25-minute segment is almost like an opportunity to do a round over and over, refining shapes, transitions of color, and transitions of values with every single chapter. I always make sure to leave something like the nose and the hair or parts of the face that don't move as much towards the end of the 25-minute segment. This way, it won't really affect my painting all that much. While working on these projects, I've been sharing a lot of these paintings on social media, on Reddit, on Instagram, and I've been getting a lot of really great questions. So in this video, I'm going to try to address some of these questions. One of them was, how do I know what color to put on the face, and how do I find the color in the shadow and in the light? I'm going to try to answer this question by first of all addressing the idea of what is a color. If you work digitally, you know that you can compose any color based on 3 factors: hue, saturation, and in digital term brightness, or in painting term your value. That being said, every time I try to match a color, there are a set of 3 questions that I'm going to ask myself. What's the value of the color, meaning how light or dark it is? What is its hue, meaning where on color wheel does it stand? So is it red, yellow, green, blue? And how saturated is my color, meaning is it closer to the gray or is it closer to its most saturated version of the hue that I'm describing? As I mentioned, in my first 25 minutes, my initial goal, other than establishing the proportions and the basic drawing, is the establishment of the basic tonal range. And I'll make sure to add my lightest light and my darkest dark from the very beginning. Having the idea of my total range of values helps me quickly establish the values that are in between. So I'm able to judge my shadow area asking myself, is my shadow closer to the highlight? Is my shadow closer to the darkest area, or is it somewhere exactly in the middle? Then once I have that, I'm able to judge the tonal distance between the highlight and the light. And this is how I'm able to answer the first question, so the question of values. Additionally, in my past videos, I've mentioned that I like working with multiple brushes. For instance, in this portrait, I am starting with 4 different brushes that are each responsible for a specific set of values. I have a brush that is dedicated to my lightest lights, then I have a brush that is dedicated to my midtones, third brush is dedicated to my shadows, and fourth brush is dedicated to my deepest darks. This approach allows me to always get a very crisp and rich tonal range from the very beginning and avoid this muddy, dirty look on the painting. As you may know, that some of the biggest challenges in oil painting is getting the rich tonal range, and that is due to the brush contamination. So if you use the same brush for your lights and your shadows, you'll inevitably get some of those light pigments in your shadows, and as a result your painting might look quite muddy. While shifting values with the same brush can be a bit of a challenge in oil painting, shifting your hues, however, is a much easier task while using the same brush. I'll give you a concrete example. Let's say you're painting a lighter area of the skin and you're noticing that the color that you're placing is a little bit more on the red side in comparison to what you see from life. Because shifting the hues is much easier than shifting your values, all you have to do is just simply wipe your brush and add a bit more, say, yellow ochre, and that will take care of your issue. And it's always a question of asking yourself these questions. Always asking yourself to compare one color next to another, one value next to another, and this is how throughout the process of, say, 4 hours, you're going to try to get as close as possible to your final result. And this is how you'll end up getting pretty accurate colors towards the end. Another important aspect of painting is controlling your edges. You always want to put way more soft edges than you think you should have. Oftentimes I see people getting sharp edges everywhere, and as a result it actually flattens the painting. Look at your edges as a rare luxury, something that you want to keep for special moments in the painting where you want your viewer to look. If you're going to have too many sharp edges, you're going to end up with a very flat looking cutout of a painting, and that's something that doesn't look as pleasant to the eye. So try to think of a painting as one unit rather than multiple separate paintings. In order for it to work very harmoniously, you want to make sure that all of your edges are soft, and the only parts that are sharp are the parts where you want to attract viewers' attention. There are many more very interesting observations I was able to make throughout this entire painting project. As I mentioned, I've been painting pretty much every day, and throughout this process, which felt more like a research project, I was able to learn a lot, and I have a lot of stuff to share with you guys. So if you have any specific questions, I would really appreciate if you would let me know in the comment section below. I'm going to be working on new painting tutorials where I'm going to be sharing some more tips. In the meantime, I hope you found this video helpful. Thank you very much for watching.